This is a story of a warrior. And what warrior doesn't have a few battle scars? A cautionary tale. Let's begin with a question. Can a man who lives out his private life in public ever pause and recollect his own story? I am able to tell this story because I have been following it since almost the very beginning, that is, from his appearance on Team Liquid, a StarCraft-dedicated pro-gaming forum. This particular story begins in 2010, when Twitch.tv splits from Justin.tv, and Stephen Bonnell, also known as Destiny, becomes one of the early adopters to take the risk on this new platform. In other words, almost 10 years ago, Stephen Bonnell chose to live his private life on the internet. Every second that he spent in front of the computer, he spent streaming. His private life and views quickly became subject of gossip in a community ever starving for a good drama. We learned about his relationships, his conservative mother, his son Nathan, and his ex-wife. And, of course, with every revealed detail, more questions and controversies arose. A digression, if only to keep a chronological order, although not known about him at this stage, some of his private life consisted of behavior like this.
It's not going to get you into trouble. I don't want that.
Well, not anymore. It doesn't matter anymore.
Okay.
So I was married for a while to my wonderful ex-wife. We kind of grew apart because I was doing work and school full time, and so we kind of were going our separate ways. And the end of our relationship was like super fucking disastrous. And while she wanted an open relationship at the end of our relationship, and I was like, fine, fuck it, go do what you want, because I didn't care at that point. I was too busy on work and school. And we both worked at the same place, and I started to have kind of a thing for another one of the workers there, Rachel, who would be my kid's mom, going to be my kid's mom.
Oh,
and
shit.
My wife at the time found out, and she wanted to get me fired. So she took one of the text messages that I sent her, and she went to my boss about it. And later that night, when I was talking to her, to Catherine, to my ex-wife about it, she told me what she'd done. And when we were kind of like, we had a crazy toxic relationship towards the end, but the sex was fucking insane. We were so fucked off each other, right? And after one of our sessions that night, I grabbed her phone and I deleted all of those texts. The next day, my manager called me into the office with Rachel, the girl that I was having a fling with, Catherine, my wife, and then my manager, one of our supervisors, and then two people from HR, because I was a supervisor at the time and I wasn't supposed to, yeah. And Pam said, Stephen, I need to talk to you because Catherine here has brought evidence that you are having an affair with one of the employees. And I talked to Pam and I said, listen, at the end of my relationship with Catherine, she's going through a lot of stuff right now, and I don't think she's being very honest about a lot of the things that are going on. And then Pam was like, well, I need to talk to you because I have pictures of some of the screenshots from her phone. And on her phone, my name is labeled Stephen. And I told Pam, I was like, did you check the phone number coming from those text messages? Because I bet she relabeled it from a friend and had him send those messages. I bet if you check her phone right now, she won't have those texts anymore. And since I deleted them from the night before, my wife started to dig through her phone and she couldn't find them and she left the office crying. And I got out and she got fired. That's the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
If you ever struggle to explain to someone what gaslighting is, tell them this story. Stephen removed evidence of his wrongdoing to avoid responsibility. Destiny became a lightning rod for the StarCraft community. Even though better players existed, his grass personality and familiarity with meme culture pulled more audiences consistently. Stop right now and think, if you remember, what was the meme culture like back then? Destiny was like a lot of 20-year-old in that time, edgy dropout, that failed at a lot in the real life, but online, partly in spite of the failings, partly due to those failings, was immensely relatable. So much so that despite the lack of tournament success, his opinions about the direction of the community mattered to it. In July 2011, Destiny found himself without a team or a sponsor. The streaming was barely commencing, but no streamer, at this point, knew if they could make a living playing games. Destiny wanted to diversify his sources of income, as he had to pay child support, so he continued streaming while trying to land a sponsorship deal. Almost immediately, someone decided to fuck with him. The denial of service attack began. Destiny becomes irritable, angry that his source of livelihood and child support is being attacked. He goes hard against the hacker, including threatening him with death. September 2, 2011, Destiny makes the horrible mistake of suggesting some women might be getting hired not because of their competence, but because the sausage party that is esports is getting lonely sometimes.
A while ago, Jessica recruited Yvonne to Team Slayers pretty much because A, she looked pretty, and B, she was a girl. I was adamantly against this because I feel like women deserve a fair shot at making their own progress through SC2 without any kind of artificial support. I believe that women, though many choose not to, are capable of performing just as well as men at any PC game. I'm only mentioning this because I want to make it very clear that I'm all for equality throughout the genders, and I'm definitely for women making a larger appearance in the SC2 scene.
As people who were seriously thinking of a career in front of a video game, pro gamers understood that at some point, this lifestyle separated them permanently from the rest of the society, including women. But rather than get out themselves, they wanted to bring women in. However, white knights and social justice warriors were outraged at the idea that hiring just any women could lead to the deterioration of an aspiring sport and lifestyle. They began scouring Destiny's internet history and watch his every move, of which little was done off the internet, to find evidence they could ruin his life with. We will take a short pause to talk about social justice warriors. In 2011, this is not exactly a derogatory term. Gamergate has not happened yet, and some people are wearing this label proudly. But what is a social justice warrior? The definition did not change for the past 10 years. For one to be a social justice warrior, one must A. Act on behalf of social justice, the various minority groups and women. B. Act out the belief that deplatforming works, despite being presented evidence to the contrary, and C. Organize to deplatform enemies of social justice. This is a definition only crypto social justice warriors would disagree with. Certainly, this simple mantra was agreed upon by the warriors and knights of 2010. Let's continue the story of a fall. In October 2011, Destiny lands a contract with Quantic Gaming, to the protesting of his detractors. He is happy but anxious, aware that his moves are being watched. On March 9, 2012, Destiny makes another mistake, a post responding to the deplatforming of a caster named Orb, for using the N-word in his past, perpetrated by a graduate of social justice studies. Here is Destiny's defense.
This is a huge discussion that I know I've been involved in before, and I know no one wants to hash out here. If it were me, personally, I'd have probably either suspended or fired him because he lied about his conduct, not for the conduct itself. But seriously, this post contains so much hypocritical, ignorant jargon that it's fucking disgusting to read. Want to end racism? Stop talking about it. Stop putting it up on a fucking pedestal. You're not helping any person of color or someone who's been persecuted due to their race by firing a fucking caster who used the word nigger on his fucking live stream in the past, so please don't go to sleep with some smug sense of self-satisfaction thinking you're making the world a better place, or even doing the slightest fucking bit to help with any kind of real problems dealing with racial issues.
Destiny quotes the forbidden word and Morgan Freeman to make the point that this is not how racism could be ended. Regardless, this argument is later used as evidence of his own racism. But we can all stop and think, in what ways Destiny reminds us ourselves, and in what ways he doesn't. May 2, 2012, a user with a tag Skeleton Justice Warrior takes it upon himself to expose Destiny's hate speech, calling someone a faggot. The hope is again, to get Destiny deplatformed.
First and foremost, there is no reason to debate ethics of whether or not you should be able to say certain racial words. It's a waste of time on the internet. It's eerily similar to arguing about religion. It will always devolve into ad hominem and strawman, and nothing will ever come from having said discussions. I realize this, and that's why I have never tried to argue my points on any shows or post in any forums. I never try to shove my beliefs down people's throats. In fact, it's something that I'm incredibly against. I do admit, calling her a faggot is just stooping down to her level, but this bitch is out of her fucking mind if she thinks that she's leading by example as a moderator while posting like this. I'm not crying that people make personal attacks on me, but there are some figures that get personally attacked a lot, and people never seem to get similarly outraged about it. I rage at a guy on Ladder, and in 24 hours there's a thread with 250,000 views on it on Team Liquid. What about all of the troll Reddit accounts that only serve to shit on me? In Control, HD, Husky, Day 9, Scarlet. Note, Scarlet is transgender. Have you ever seen some of the shit they say? I would much rather be called a cracker or a skinny white boy or a spick. I'm half Cuban. Does that even count? Then failed carpet cleaner, illegitimate father with bastard child, fat burger in cholesterol, out of control of his weight or it referring to Scarlett's gender, etc.
The same Reddit user compiles and shares all of his known past perceived wrongdoings, his responses, and, of course, a full list of contact details for Quantic and their sponsors.
Destiny is a professional StarCraft 2 player. I use the term professional loosely, because despite having made a living off playing the game for over a year, the grand total of his winnings is totaled at $100. Winning a $300 video card at a local LAN tournament a few years ago means that I've actually had more professional success at video games than him. So how is he able to live off his gaming career? He's a very successful streamer because of his personality. Much like Redditors adore edgy humor, he has legions of fans that get off on him repeatedly spouting off insults like nigger, faggot, gook, spick, making rape jokes, demeaning, and sexually assaulting women. He's also sponsored by Razer through the team Quantic Gaming. Update, he got fired for being a racist shithead, also, by orders of something awful. He's already been featured several times on shit Reddit says. Bashing woman in StarCraft. Defending racism. Using his favorite racial slur. Homophobia and misogyny. So without further ado, I present, Unoffended Destiny, the high shit wizard of the gaming community. Believe it or not, those are all direct quotes from his posting history on Reddit.
Even an uncharitable person can see that Steven is against religion and pro-trans rights, against fat shaming. However, he still reserves the right to use slurs. He also is not yet aware where his half-Cuban identity places him in the intersectional hierarchy. Team Liquid removes him as a recommended streamer, his viewership declines. On June 2, 2012, shortly after joining the newly reformed Root Gaming, it was announced that Destiny would travel to Poland and practice in the Ministry of Wind Training House. At the time, Destiny was banned on Team Liquid forum and on Twitch. He was streaming on a shaky alternative platform called Owned. The service had trouble paying the content creators. On top of that, he had to pay his child support and the upkeep fees at the training house. To offset the financial drawbacks and because of lack of motivation to continue to get better at StarCraft in these circumstances, Destiny decides to play other games, to attract viewership. He moves to League of Legends, which causes a schism in his community. Some people believe he is selling out. Accusations true or not, Destiny goes on a banning spree, a fight ensues directly between him and his community. Aggravated fans start bringing up his past perceived wrongdoings. Destiny argues, bans, removes posts, videos, evidence. Then gaslights everyone by offering a challenge to find evidence. The leaked underage photos incident occurs. It has been talked about enough in other places, so I will spare you the details. Although I will mention the interesting blame dynamic that occurred and that there definitely were shifts in Destiny's narrative. Some of the efforts to contact his current team with evidence of his racism, sexism and pedophilia are however successful, and on August 29, 2012, Root Gaming succumbs to the mob. A statement is issued, releasing Destiny from their roster.
Destiny isn't being released because we think he is a racist, or because we think any of the things that haters make him out to be are true. In my opinion, Destiny is a genuine, outspoken and sincere person, a very good friend, one of my best friends, and I have a lot of respect for him in every regard. We don't agree on everything, but he is one of the first people I would go to if I needed advice on any grounds. Root is a team based on friendship, and we honestly hate to go against this for the first time, but at the same time for what we believe is the greater good for everyone else in the team in the long run. In the last incident that Steven was involved in not long ago, our sponsors received a lot of negative feedback through email about the whole situation. When it comes to Steven, we know that this isn't the first or the last time this will happen. The chat log wasn't pretty and it brought us a lot of negative publicity. It also, obviously, doesn't reflect the opinions of our entire team, and even though I believe it's just silly talk between friends and it should be a private matter, we can't remotely agree or celebrate some of the things said in it. For this reason, TT1 and Faith are receiving a warning and will be suspended from participating in clan wars and internal team activities for a month or more.
Please notice how Cats, Destiny's longtime friend, still defends him from allegations while letting him go. Moreover, notice the tactic used by the social justice crowd. The complete circumvention of both the leadership and friendships and hitting exactly where it hurts everyone, the sponsors. To make matters worse, Own.tv ceases operation in January 2013, leaving Destiny, who wants to continue this lifestyle, with no money and only one option: try to appease Twitch and return home. He manages that, but at twofold cost. 1. His viewership is in the gutter, and 2. He absolutely must avoid any future controversies. And for a couple of years he would manage to do so by gradually adopting the social justice of Twitch's terms of service. Gamergate happened in 2013, not particularly relevant to the story, but since it did, our story took on new colors. So something changed. But did it really? Can a person change? Would it even be Destiny if he stayed away from controversy? He did some PC build streams, some podcasts with Richard Lewis and Chanman V, but the same issues with his character that stopped him in the past continued. Of course, now he was squarely on the social justice side, and still anytime someone would bring up the events that led to his deplatforming they would get copyright striked and gaslit. On August 25, 2014, Amazon acquired Twitch and some argued this will restrict freedom on the platform. Fast forward 2016 election happened and Destiny joined the debate, now as a seemingly redeemed liberal. His content garnered some popularity, his crass personality and trollish tactics were entertaining. The boards were continuously spammed with his threads. He started having debates with political opponents from YouTube, with similar or bigger channels, arguing in favor of social justice, that would once have him ruined. At the same time he was very particular about his opponents. Winning against them had to be beneficial to his channel, he also had to be confident that he will beat them, otherwise he would be seen as platforming hate and break the rules of Twitch. Thus, Destiny's doctrine of responsible platforming was born. And so he screened opponents and researched them and insinuated every one of them was racist or bigoted to be destroyed in a debate. This clip from 2018.
I am very fucking cold, and I'm not lying when I say that most of my positions come from like a position of like rational self-interest. Like, I don't give a fuck about black people, really, in the United. I don't care about minorities. Like,
he argued for deplatforming and continued to strike video responses to him, but more and more, his own crowd took over that role, celebrating each deplatforming on his personal subreddit. And so, the old audience, once estranged by his objectionable behavior and new waves of social justice warriors flocked to his stream, believing him to be genuine and changed. This audience, of course, is left-leaning, not much changed in that respect since 2010, so much so that every time Destiny mistakes turning profit on controversy for capitalism, they seem to think he is only ironically a capitalist. What kind of a person would think that capitalism means turning profit on controversy? Well, the least we can say it's someone who thinks very low of capitalism, of course. And so he kept attracting more and more people who don't like it.
is that I make a lot of arguments in favor of progressive social policies and whatnot. Like I'm probably the most progressive like Twitch streamer in terms of like doing like politics. And there are a lot, and I would always say things like, you know, I'm very self-interested. This is where all of my motivation comes from. And just recently, I had a pretty big schism in my fan base where people were like, something, I don't even know what came up, but something came up, and people found out like, wait, holy shit. Destiny doesn't actually give a fuck about anybody else. He only cares about himself. And a lot of people got really fucking upset about this. And
wait,
like,
did they really?
Yes, like really. Like I had like a bunch of people.
But
like,
you've been saying that for fucking years.
But people don't believe me when I say it. Like, and even in chat like earlier. Well, now people are finally starting. But even in chat earlier, there's a lot of people saying, and I even saw in my Minecraft chat, were like, oh no, Destiny just pretends to be this really edgy person, but like he just says all this shit to be edgy. And it's like, okay, like I mean, if you want to think that, that's fine.
For someone who has been following his road for a long time, the fact that Destiny believes in nothing and is only concerned with himself comes as no surprise. But piecing together that he will lie to you for his own profit without a problem requires the rest of the pieces.
like, and now this sounds like classic fucking sociopath behavior, whatever, is like, I don't know if I should be as forthcoming about my internal processes, because I think that most of my conclusions tend to be like pretty good. Like, or when I say pretty good, like most of my conclusions are desirable amongst like progressive liberal people in the US. So what do I gain from revealing my inner thought processes other than more people like fucking hating me, when I could just lie about it and go like, oh no, yeah, look, I love humanity, so let's talk about immigration, you know?
It's around that time that a YouTuber by the name of Naked Ape, a friend of Kraut and T, released a video about Destiny and his debate with him. I recommend that you watch that video. I also recommend the March 2017 video titled Steve Destiny Bono, Retraction via DMCA. At the end of 2017, Internet blood sports began. It revolved mostly around Kraut and T's controversy, something for others to argue about. Regardless, Destiny wanted his chance to dunk on the backwards conservatives. Stopped short, no pun intended, by Mr. Me Tucker, on January 28, Destiny urges his fan base to report everyone involved, including but not limited to Sargon Avakad, Brittany Vendy, Nick Fuentes, Jean-Francois Garipi, and Andy Worski.
So, Destiny is basically saying that he wants to engage in this war against these huge personalities with huge fan bases, and he's going to be the lightning rod. So if he's going to encourage people to go after Patreons and YouTubes, people, I mean, there could be a blizzard that just falls on him, on all of his social media accounts, on his Facebook, his Patreon, his YouTube, whatever the case may be. So this is kind of retarded. It's very retarded. So let's go to the this right here is what I was originally sent, and I was originally sent a link to this tweet right here by Fancy Sloth that says, "I'm not saying that we should report these tweets, but if we were, should we do it under target harassment?" And he's been downvoted. I don't know why, because their leader has already directed them to do this. This was submitted 15 hours ago by Neo Destiny. Boy, he's got a pretty high opinion of himself. This is on his subreddit, and the title of it is "Link to Tweets of People Celebrating My Twitter Ban." What it says is, "I'm making a compilation for a..." Oh, let me do the voice. This sounds nothing like him, by the way, but I imagine that this is the voice that he has in his head when he's talking. This is how he views himself, but he doesn't want anybody else to know. So, anyways, "I'm making a compilation for a YouTube video. Can you guys help me gather up links to people that are explicitly/implicitly supporting my Twitter ban? Would prefer to keep it 1,000 plus follower accounts. Also, if it's possible to find the link to me talking about Sargon's Twitter ban and JonTron getting removed from that game on Twitter, that'd be swell. I made 2 tweets, one for each of these. Thanks, boys."
No meaningful retaliation on Destiny ever happened for 2 reasons. 1. The blood sports crowd was too preoccupied investigating Kraut's alleged doxing servers, and 2. Because Destiny's platform is somewhat insular from these sort of deplatforming attacks. A few people lost their accounts as the fallout of blood sports, but no one suspected Destiny's audience. But they were there all right, in the chats and streams, chanting on the blood of their enemies being spilled. Destiny's audience scoured the internet to find Jean-Francois Garipi's court documents, so that Destiny can shit on the right.
When you're 19, you're a little kid, okay? Now, if you're 22, a 19-year-old's not a kid to you, okay? I'm 29. A 19-year-old might as well be a 15-year-old to me. It's all the fucking same, dude. Don't give me this fucking, just because of some legal age of consent, whatever bullshit, I have about as much in common with like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old fucking freshman in school as I would a fucking sophomore in high school. Any type of inclination towards any of those people is really fucking weird.
But, once again, Destiny proves he does not believe things that he says.
What you say?
No, you like my boobs more than my ass, I think.
How do you know that?
Because you're playing with them now.
What you say?
I'm like 16.
What you say?
Can you set the record right and tell them how old you actually are?
I'm
20 years old.
What you say?
Just admit you're fucking this hippie.
Yeah, of course we are.
What you say? That it's all for the best, 'cause it is.
The evidence of cross-pollination of adversary audiences remains. Although all the reasons why this happened are unclear, one thing can be said for sure: only certain kinds of people side believe and act out deplatforming. In 2018, when the report, tying YouTubers like Destiny to right-wing radicalization, came out, he had this to say about it.
No.
You genuinely do hate conservatives, don't you?
Very much so. Like I've moved full on to like the political violence level, or the real violence level, when it comes to conservative people. Yeah, I think they need to be like excised from my fucking country. I think they are demonstrably fucking evil people by any moral system that most people would use. And then I just hate them because they tend to destroy the outcomes related to this country, which is what I'm concerned with. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, he is only joking to make a point. We understand that, just like we understood his point about the N-word 7 years earlier. The point was, as it has always been, to be controversial and make money on it.
That's true. I'm sorry. Actually, I want to disavow and walk back everything I said about committing violence against conservatives. I disavow all of it. In the TOS, you are not supposed to bully people for statuses related to mental illness, and conservatism probably falls under that, so I do take back what I've said. I'm sorry.
This was also a joke. Of course, he did not mean to disavow. He only meant to get more clicks. He would go on to assert that he used to be a conservative. Here is an example.
Probably very liberal.
Probably very liberal.
Compared to, yeah.
Compared to what?
Most Americans, yeah.
Oh, yeah? How old are you?
30 years old.
Really? And how long have you been a liberal?
Probably 5 to 6 years, maybe.
And you were a conservative prior to becoming a liberal?
Very much.
And what made you become a liberal?
I got a little older, a little smarter.
Oh, you
grew out of it, yeah.
And you were tired of being a man?
I was tired of being an idiot, but...
So you woke up one day, you know what, I'm tired of being a man. I want to be a liberal.
Pro-abortion, pro-gay rights, atheist, egalitarian, feminist. Having followed the story so far, do you think Destiny was not those things in 2010? Destiny could now afford to move to California, and monetize his Twitch relationships more, due to the ability to stream in his contact's time zone. And so, in late 2018, he left his son behind, and moved where to it's hard to find someone with conservative views. Along the lines of his policy of responsible platforming, he became close friends with a communist and a Young Turks host, Hassan Piker.
I am adamantly anti-communist, I am adamantly anti-socialist, and I am adamantly pro-capitalist. Not a lot of left-leaning people are, and I make it very clear. But if I were to post a video right now saying about how much I love capitalism, I'm not going to be relentlessly shit on because I haven't built a fan base of communists.
I recommend you search a video titled Tara Babcock and the Communist Pipeline. However, his fans had it removed from YouTube. In April 2019, Destiny appeared in the longest surviving blood sports show with Ethan Ralph, partly to call out 14-year-old girl YouTuber for being too controversial in the right-wing direction. Leftward controversy is of course preferable. If you have not seen that, I recommend you do. Here is something he said to justify his stance.
It says deplatforming is for cowards who can't defend their views. Imagine being a debater who has to get rid of your opponent to win. Just source facts, my dude. Internet tabs.
Well, the problem with the problem with that argument is that so if you look at the way crypto people kind of operate, they always operate in bad faith, but they try to take advantage of the niceties of society. So somebody that is hiding their power level is always going to thrive because there are people that are the centrists or people like Soph, I guess, that will defend these people and go well, hold on, you don't truly know that he's a Nazi, because they're hoping that somebody like that is massively giving them the benefit of the doubt. So it can be really hard to attack these people publicly because then you always have the appearance of being an extremist, even though somebody could be pretty blatant about it, because people in the center will always defend these people. This is why, for instance, lefties hate liberals. I'm using liberal in the broad liberalism sense. The reason why people on the left hate liberals is because when push come to shove, they'll say that, well, liberals are always going to side with the fascists over the lefties because it defends their, entrenched position in society and whatnot. And I think there are really strong arguments to be made.
We've heard this before. Where would Destiny get this idea? Oh right.
I do that is because, I mean, tankies, no matter how fucking insane they seem, are still allies and historically have always been allies in comparison to even liberals who will oftentimes side with fascists when push comes to shove. I've said this before as well. Like, I mean, this is, I don't know. That's why I don't have an issue with it. And the second reason why I don't have an issue with the tankies, despite like some of the memes getting really fucking annoying, because I get called a liberal or a social fascist like every fucking 3 words because I dare criticize the immortal science of Marxist-Leninism. But the second reason why I think tankies are allies is also because they play a significant role in, you know, moving the Overton window closer to a more reasonable leftist perspective.
People are saying tankies killed the other lefties after the revolution in Russia.
Yes, that's true.
That
Tankies
makes
do
them
end
sound
up
like
killing.
not allies.
No, tankies do. I'm saying, but
He has completed his journey to the left. In fact, he has never been anywhere else, unless of course you think that abusing your wife and saying the word faggot is conservative. The only thing removing him from the 2010 definition of an SJW, if you still remember it, is that he no longer needs to deplatform people by his own hands, but rather has people for it. Hail nihilism, full of opportunism. The sociopath is with thee. Woke thou amongst feminists. And blessed the chat logs of thy feminine penis. Holy hate speech, mother of vengeance. Pray for us ironic communists. Now and at the hour of the bourgeoisie death. Amen. Anti-hero becomes a hero. Apology becomes an attack. Profit becomes theft. War becomes peace. Freedom becomes slavery. Violence becomes tolerance. Up becomes down. Black becomes white. Clown world. Destiny was never a strong man, no shame in that. But he was never an honest man. He represents what is wrong with capitalism, not what is good about it. As such, sooner or later, Hassan will realize Destiny profited unjustly, and since he thinks that profit is theft, he will try to reclaim it from Destiny. By a democratic choice of a majority socialist community, or by revolution. Either way, we will clip that event, and mash it with Yuri Bezmenov videos. The story will continue, but please take this with you. Wish not for any harm to befall Stephen, like many of us, has always been in pain. Wish for him to pause and reflect, to weep over his rotten, tormented soul. Deeds like these are not washed away by self-flagellation in taking a particular political stance. Ye who heard the story till the end, especially the ones with a talent for poetry and storytelling, be careful not to repeat his mistakes. There is no shortcut to redemption. There is no making money while redeeming yourself. Let this be a warning for those whose broken life will lead them to force onto others their extremist views, and in their hatred for themselves, produce more hatred around them. A man can only escape forward for so long, but forces us all to a standstill sooner or later, and then the past catches up to us.